So guys, hello everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a very important and interesting topic today, contracts and agreements with the lower worlds, both conscious and unconscious, and how to avoid the trap of accidentally signing such a contract. Sometimes, without realizing it, we give loopholes for our energy to be taken from us. I want to share how to prevent getting into contracts with entities so they cannot influence our lives and drain our energy. Today, I will look at examples of various contracts, conscious and unconscious. We will also analyze, in a series of videos about contracts and agreements, how to avoid such contracts and what to do if you realize that at some point you signed a similar agreement. We will discuss how they can be terminated. So get ready. Today, we will talk about those contracts that are not written on paper. I'll start with the fact that many of us do not even suspect how many similar contracts we have signed. People live their lives thinking they don't have anything like that. But these contracts exist and, as they say, ignorance of the laws does not free us from responsibility. Not knowing that we signed some contract somewhere still carries its own consequences, and we end up paying under these contracts. These contracts, on a subtle level, can greatly influence our lives, and sometimes not only this life but also subsequent ones. However, for subsequent lives, this influence usually comes from conscious contracts. We'll talk about that later. Essentially, a contract or agreement is some sort of arrangement between parties. One party does this, and the other party undertakes to do that. If we look at the same kind of agreement with entities, it has a double character. Supposedly, the entities promise to do something in return for us, but, as practice shows, they often make our life unbearable. Let's say we trust them with our finances or our life, and then they make us suffer, causing tears and grief. And for the fact that they arrange all this offering, we also pay them with our life energy. This is, of course, very unpleasant. Unfortunately, many people live under such contracts without even realizing it. They pay extra energy on top of the misery they experience. No money, constant pain in relationships, different losses, humiliation, misfortunes, and so on. People pay with their life energies to receive these negative experiences. Many of you might say, I couldn't consciously agree to this, or how could I consciously sign such a contract? And you would be right, because these kinds of contracts are usually unconscious contracts. These are the contracts we sign without even realizing it. We don't understand that. At a certain moment, we enter into a relationship where we transfer the right to manage our life to someone else. Often this happens when we think we are asking for help. We want something good in our life. But it's important to consider that our idea of what is good for us can be completely opposite to the idea of the dark forces. The dark forces do not really need a happy, wonderful person. Although in some cases we know it can be the other way around. Sometimes the dark forces deliberately give power or fame to certain messengers, so that through them they can push dark contracts onto others. I call these people the suppliers of souls. They are the ones through whom contracts are connected. Let's talk about this in order. One way or another, we can say that absolutely all contracts, conscious or unconscious, are concluded by consent. Even indirect contracts, where we agree to one thing and indirectly agree to something else, still require consent. Without a person's consent, you cannot sign an agreement with them. So, by deception and manipulation, we are forced to believe something, usually. This is how they get us to conclude a contract. One of the most common everyday contracts, and probably 90% of humanity is under, is the contract of I do not manage my life. In this contract, a person does not believe that I am the master of my own destiny. Instead, they think nothing depends on them, that some magical forces control everything. They go to these forces and say, please, make it so that I have money, happiness, health itself. In doing so, They don't realize they are directly appealing to certain forces and handing over their power. They give away full control and move into a sort of slavery to these forces, where those forces can do whatever they want with them. I can tell you that the light forces, as a rule, have no interest in taking away your free will. The light forces are more like a caring parent who wants you to succeed on your own. I often say their role is supportive. It's like a dad teaching a child to ride a bike. He doesn't get on the bike to ride it for the child. He puts the child on the bike and says, "Come on, you pedal. I will catch you if you lose balance." He helps, but you ride the bike yourself. It's like the saying, if you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you give them a fishing rod and teach them how to fish, you feed them for life. That's very much how the light forces work. They are interested in a person becoming as autonomous as possible. In contrast, the dark forces are all about control. They don't want a person to take responsibility for anything. They want to make decisions for you about how much you will earn, where you will live, your relationships, your health, and so on. So you are absolutely not the master of your life. Unfortunately, many people around us are stuck in these kinds of contracts, handing over their inner and outer resources, as well as the management of their entire life, to dark forces. People often want some magical savior to appear and solve their problems. But if we are talking about bright souls on the bright path, they walk the path of free will. Many guys I communicate with on the channel, in comments on YouTube, or at the Sun Club, share their growth stories and how they reached significant changes in their lives without calling upon any magical forces. They relied on their inner will, declared that will, and said, "I want to find true knowledge," for example, or "I want to see something real in my life." They didn't expect it to be brought to them on a silver platter. They simply declared their will and had the confidence, "I can do this, I want it, and I'm going towards that goal." That is a completely different approach. In that approach, the person first of all says, "I am responsible for my life, and I make the decisions in my life." This is crucial. When someone says, "I decided, I chose," it forms the foundation of intention and the power to shape reality. When a person begins to clearly state their decisions and show their will, then no demonic force or dark force can stand against it. Those forces simply can't do anything in the face of that decision. The energy of the universe supports it. If a person does not feel the strength of their inner will and is constantly waiting for magical saviors, then they follow the path of contracts. They call out to anyone, "Come and help me, do something for me," and so on. It's important to see the difference in context. For example, in one case, a person might say, "I want to meet someone who can help me figure things out." Or "I want to find what will help me figure things out or help me deal with some of my problems." That is, yes, to find something that will help me find information. Find something. Yes, here is one request. And there is another request where someone just comes and fixes everything for me, gives me what I need. "I'm so tired. I can't do it, please. Someone solve this problem for me." These are two completely different internal energies, two different types of requests we send out into space. In the first case, our request aligns with the expression of our will. The energy of matter begins to work in accordance with the laws of the universe. In the second case, of course, many beings from the lower worlds will come running in a big crowd to offer their service. Yes. They will say, "Yes, we can help you. Just let us have access to you, to your reality, to your finances, to your health, and so on. We will maintain order for you." And a person unconsciously sends that request out into the space and naturally can sign contracts in this way. I repeat, the main difference lies in who is responsible for your life. On the one hand, you are the one who takes responsibility. On the other hand, you feel, "I can't do anything in my life at all. Only someone from the outside can come and do it for me. That second approach, of course, is the path of contracts. By the way, this idea is specifically implanted in us from birth. From childhood, we are given the type of thinking that we can do absolutely nothing about our life, that our life does not depend on us, and so on. I've talked about this more than once. It's not by accident that this mindset is laid down, so that during life a person signs as many of these contracts as possible. Entities are happy to get you in that position, where you unconsciously surrender control of your life to them. Then you don't understand why you live the way you do, why everything is so bad, and why you can't decide anything. You might still believe that some magical being will do something good for you, but that also doesn't happen. Often, it gets even worse. In fact, very often people share their stories on YouTube and in the Solar Club on Boosty, for example. They talk about how when a person is in such a contract, especially those involving some magical money egregor or something else, things end up going badly for them financially. Maybe it was already bad, but then it gets worse. The person basically gives some unknown entity access to their wallet, and it naturally starts draining them. It's like the saying, free cheese is only in a monster truck. If someone tells you, connect to this magical pot, monetary abundance and gold bars will rain down on you, you have to think, what's in it for that magic pot? Why would it hand out free gold bars or drop manna from heaven? It smells like a dark contract. Of course, people look for easy solutions, a magic pill, where you don't have to do anything and suddenly everything gets solved. But that is a path of contracts. If we talk about the bright path is the path of awareness, the path of rethinking your life, the path of untying internal knots and working on yourself. For many, that seems too difficult and they don't want to do it, so they look for simple ways and, unfortunately, end up falling into contracts, terminating such unconscious contracts, indirect contracts as well, where we agree to one thing but end up agreeing to something else, often just requires reflection and self-work. For example, if you buy a lottery ticket hoping to win, you might unknowingly connect yourself to a certain gambling egregor. By participating, you freely become part of that egregor and it can draw you in further. Some people become addicted to gambling or feel compelled to keep playing roulette. For instance, this is how an egregor can involve us in its domain. Similarly, with indirect contracts, a person might just want some extra money and agrees to something shady, some scam. By agreeing, they take on more than just making extra money. Or another example, if relatives give you a figurine, a money toad or some other object, and say, keep this for money luck, and you accept it without understanding, you may be accepting that some toad, or whoever controls it, is now counting your money. Even if we didn't initially ask that toad for anything, by accepting the gift we might be entering an indirect contract. The dark forces pay attention to these loopholes. I've mentioned before that if you terminate a contract with an egregor but keep some attribute of it in your home, the egregor may assume you still consider it useful, so the contract remains partially valid. This is why when we terminate contracts, we must burn all bridges, clearly stating our no to all of it. These unconscious or indirect contracts can be ended quite easily because we were tricked into them in the first place, that they exist as long as we allow them to. We can cancel them simply by rethinking these points, working on ourselves and starting to take our power back. If we speak about contracts where we unknowingly hand over aspects of our life to someone else's control, just start taking that power back. Say, from now on I am responsible for my life, my finances, my health, and so on. Declare yourself the master of your own life, not just in words, but really feel it. That way, you cancel all those contracts and say, no one else has the right to manage my life anymore. Now I'm starting to manage these processes. Of course, not everyone can do that right away. Many carry negative mindsets like, can I really manage my life? What if I can't handle it? What if something goes wrong? Lots of fears pop up, lots of self-doubt. We can ask ourselves, who's pouring these fears into my head? Who keeps whispering that I won't cope, that I can't do it? Well, that's obviously the forces that want to preserve these contracts. They want to keep control. So we need to recognize these attempts at manipulation. Today, we looked at the most common examples of unconscious contracts. In the next videos, I will continue talking about contracts. If you're interested, please let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear how you'd like this topic to continue. Also, let me know if there are specific contracts you want me to discuss. I might include them in my upcoming videos. That's it for now. Subscribe to my Telegram channel. Don't forget, I'm starting to talk a lot there about current world events, politics, things happening in the world, and how I see them from a subtle level. Also, don't forget about the Solar Club, where you can have live broadcasts with me on topics chosen by the participants. There is now a very large archive because the club is already 2 years old. In fact, we're celebrating that anniversary in February. Over this time, many participants have grown a lot, learned to manage their intentions, and qualitatively change their lives. People there share their successes constantly. If you also want to share, or if you want to access a great archive of information, join in, listen, read, and chat with me both live and in the group chat. All links will be in the description. I love you all. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share my channel. Become a member of my Telegram channel and discuss with like-minded people as a supporting club member.